doctor.
On average, we sleep 20% less than we did 100 years ago. Award-winning writer Dr. Sarah Britten gets even less. By day, she has a grueling work schedule, and at night, she struggles to sleep.
Sleep, for me, is an actual achievement. I've always suffered from insomnia from time to time, ever since I was young. But it got really bad about 3 years ago for reasons I don't quite understand. And then I had a lot of personal stress in my life. And of course, stress always does impact on your sleeping pattern. So it just got worse and worse and worse. It's one of those things where you feel very alone. It's quiet. You can maybe hear the distant roar of traffic. But it feels as though everybody else is asleep except you. Not sleeping does shorten your lifespan. I'm very aware of that. So I count the reduced minutes I have left to live as opposed to counting sheep.
Insomnia relates to whether or not you're getting enough sleep for what you need. As we get older, our sleep requirements change.
Sleep is a very biological process. We can interfere with it with our minds, and there are two main processes that determine when we sleep and when we wake up. The one is what we call the homeostatic process, and that very simply is the longer you're awake for, the sleepier you get, and I think everybody knows that. But it is a very clear process. The other process that usually combines with that is called the circadian rhythm. And what that means is that at night we produce melatonin, which is a hormone from our brains that we make. And as the melatonin level goes up in the brain, the body temperature starts to drop. And when the body temperature starts to drop, we feel sleepy. And it stays low the whole night and comes up at about 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. And that's what wakes us up naturally in the morning. By far the biggest cause of insomnia are people who get anxious about falling asleep. So they almost teach themselves not to be able to sleep. We call this psychophysiological insomnia, and it usually starts with a really big stress, and then after that they find it difficult to sleep because they're worried that they're not going to sleep because they haven't slept for a couple of nights. And that worry about sleeping actually just keeps the insomnia rolling on for 10, 15 years.
In many ways, I'm my own worst enemy when it comes to insomnia. I know that I shouldn't be looking at my phone. I know that I shouldn't be working on my laptop in bed. Bed should be for sleeping. The thing with insomnia is you know that there are consequences to not sleeping, and that's incredibly frustrating because I know that the next day if I don't sleep, I'm not going to be able to function.
When it comes to having a good night's sleep, there are some things that are absolute no-nos that you shouldn't do. One is caffeine. I think what's important to recognize is the effects of caffeine can last for 5 to 6 hours after you've taken it. So if you are at all sensitive to caffeine, you shouldn't have caffeine after lunch. The other thing that can interfere with sleep is alcohol. A lot of people think that if they have alcohol, they'll fall asleep quickly, and that is true. But once you have too much, it's essentially a drug, so you'll get a withdrawal from the drug later on at night. So 2-3 hours after you fall asleep, you get woken up. And also exercise. Some people find that if they exercise too close to bedtime, that because of all the adrenaline that's flying around after the exercise, that they can't fall asleep then. But generally what we look at are the good sleep habits that people have and the bad sleep habits that insomniacs develop. So good sleep habits is if you know that you need 7 hours of sleep, then you're in bed for 7 hours. You don't need to be in bed for 9 hours to get 7 hours of sleep. But what people tend to do if they're battling to sleep is they go to bed very early, and they spend a lot of time doing what they call relaxing. So they will read for ages or they'll watch TV in bed, and all of that is actually confusing to the brain.
The one thing I never do when I'm trying to sleep is watch horror movies or anything I know is going to come back to haunt me when I'm lying there in the dark trying to sleep. I have a very active visual imagination, and yes, anything scary, it completely freaks me out. I absolutely cannot sleep.
Good quality sleep is a difficult thing to define because everybody has their own idea of what quality actually means. But in a scientific sense, what we would understand by quality is if you have a good quality sleep and enough quantity, so the two have to combine, that when you wake up in the morning, that you are alert and awake for the entire day that follows and only needing to sleep again the next night. What's important is that some people will never wake up in the morning feeling fabulous. It's more about at the end of the day you can say, I felt good today, I could concentrate, I didn't feel sleepy, therefore I must have had a good quality sleep.
doctor.